All right. Good morning, everybody. It's January 4th. I've made quite a few videos over my break, but I'll be honest, guys, I've been busy and I've had stuff going on. I don't think I even got them uploaded because when I make a video, and a lot of times I do this while I'm driving, because then when I get home and I'm doing whatever I got to do when I get home, I can just click upload. But it takes, depending on the video, it can take 30 minutes to an hour. So if I got things to do or I need my phone, they get lost and forgotten. So, but we're gonna get back on it. 2024. This might be the first video I'm putting up. I don't know. But I guess today's concept, and I hate to be rude, y'all, but I'm gonna be eating during this one. I'm gonna start living my life how I want. Y'all know I love pizza. So I'll be talking with food in my mouth. I don't care. Today we're gonna talk about gravity. And I do want to start getting into concepts that aren't quite fight related, but this whole thought started from the fight scene. It all originated from Bryce Mitchell. So most of us know Bryce. He's got some different perspectives on things. A lot of them I think are goofy. I'm not gonna sit and be nice about it. I think a lot of things that I think several of the things he said are absolutely stupid. And the reason I say it like that is because when we spread misinformation, we're just taking a step back. And I really, really hate the spread of misinformation. So we know about the flat earth. I think he believes in Illuminati. Whatever. I'm not going to get into all that part. But he did say one thing. I think it was in an interview with Bisbee. This has been a while back. But it caught my ear and it got me to start thinking. He said he didn't believe in gravity. And I've seen a couple things about this. Well, in his short explanation, he ends up like taking a pencil and a paper and he's like, why don't these fall at the same time? And well, the answer's simple. You can literally watch a video on YouTube of someone they go into the world's biggest vacuum and they drop a brick and this huge feather. In the vacuum, they fall at the exact same time because there's no air resistance. Now Bryce's whole thing is, I think he acknowledged air resistance, but he's trying to say it's all on density. And it really caught my eye because it's like, man, he's got a point. So it's like gravity would change in water based off the atmosphere we're in. And I'm saying atmosphere as what is around us. So if I'm in my living room, I'm in an atmosphere of air. If I'm at the bottom of the ocean, I'm in an atmosphere of water. If I'm inside a glacier, I'm in an atmosphere of ice. I understand that might not be the term for atmosphere, but for the sake of communication, that's what I'm doing. And in a lot of this stuff in discovery in the world, there's not a term for it, and that's the challenge of it. So Bryce is trying to say like density is what controls it. So as I thought through it, I was like, man, that's really not that crazy of a thought. That makes a lot of sense. The flaw in it, though, and the reason why it works for Bryce to think that is he thinks the earth is flat. Well, the earth's not flat, and we do have proof of that. One being by how light bends and travels and the shortest path from point A to B, but whatever. So you got the earth as a sphere. If it's all on density, at some point, regardless of what the perspective is, you have something on the bottom. So everything on Antarctica would be rising. Everything would be rising or falling all the time. And that's not what's going on. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm going to aggravate some people. Probably get Bryce mad. I don't care. I'll out-rap Bryce every day of the week. Then I've wanted to take this idea to a couple different people. So, because if you go up to someone and you say, hey, I don't believe in gravity, they're like, oh, you're crazy. So some things I got to thinking, I was like, how do they even come up with this idea of gravity? I talked to someone I know that's in a science field and they just shut it down, which is absolutely the opposite of what I feel like people in science should do. Like when you think you know everything and you haven't actually done any thought of yourself and you're just trusting what someone told you, you're literally not doing anything and you don't know anything. But whatever. All right. So another way to justify gravity or talking about gravity is they'll say that the moon affects the tides. And if you get more specific into it, there will be higher tides on the side of the earth that is closest to the moon and the opposite side simultaneously. So let me ask you this. If you had a water balloon, now one, let's just talk about that. It's pulling it from the other side bigger too. Okay. If you had a water balloon and you placed it on a table, that water balloon is going to go like this. It's going to flatten out, and these are going to get higher. Both sides. Does that kind of sound more logical than this little thing up here that wasn't always there is pulling both sides of the water higher? That just doesn't make sense to me. I could be wrong. Yeah. So, in all my thoughts, I get to thinking more and more and more and more and more. Everything in this life is so perspective. Like, everything is based off how we look at it. So, like earlier when I was talking about the earth, it's going to be upside down at some point. The perspective is important. The way we look at the earth will matter to figure out which side is the bottom and which is the top. All right. So I go through a couple more thoughts, but hear me out on this. I'm starting to think we're not gravity. There's no force pulling it, and the reason. Something else I struggle with science, and when people try to tell me about science and they're like, oh, you can't challenge science. Science fucking changes in your lifetime. What I was taught as a child gravity was with gravitrons has literally been eliminated in my lifetime and changed. And like, what, in 2011, they started realizing, they're saying gravity's wavelengths. But then when you try to question it with someone in the community, they're going to act like you're stupid or something. But they can't explain a single fucking study or have a challenge to their experiment, but then they'll be like, oh, science doesn't always know, but this is the... Whatever. So, it's an important concept is to understand that gravity isn't proven, it's a theory, it's an idea. And another test I wanted to have with this, because I've had this conversation in the past before, and I'm trying not to give away all the information at the beginning, but I'd get to talking with someone that was really smart, and they'd be this. And then they'd be like, well, gravity is actually not what you're saying it is. And they'd show me like a Wikipedia definition and this and that. And I'd be like, yeah, but you were assuming gravity is what you thought I was saying it was because this is what we were both taught in our childhood. And now you are recognizing there has been a change in what they say that has been unbeknown to you until I brought it to your attention. And now you're going to act like I did something wrong. You literally don't even know what you're like what you're dealing with. So as a kid, they were saying there were gravitrons, which were like these little invisible particles inside the center of the earth pulling us towards it. This is a literal thing. You can go look it up. It's real. It's a real thing. How the fuck is someone pulling us towards the center of the earth and then something's pulling us away? What? That makes no fucking sense. Anyways, I'm starting to think it's all actually pressure. It's based on density, but we're looking at it backwards. Instead of being pulled towards the middle, we're being pushed down by pressure. It's the pressure that's keeping everything together. And pressure just builds on one another. The air is pressured to stay in our atmosphere of Earth, stratosphere, whatever it is, by space, because there is so much of it. For example, a bowling ball weighs more than soil, or a bowling ball is more dense than soil. But if I go take a bowling ball and drop it in my yard right now, it's not going to fall through my yard 100 miles because the earth is so compact and compressed. It's more dense than the bowling ball, even though dirt in its own form isn't. If that makes sense. So, I think part of why we're not floating off into space, for example, would be like the weight of the air. All these words are tricky because we're stuck with science words for the sake of communication, but the weight of the air is actually holding us down. We'd be like, oh, that's impossible. There's a bazillion pounds of weight on us right now. If you go out into space, your body's gonna go because there's no pressure. But there's no pressure compared to air. But space is a bazillion times the size of air. So all of that is gonna be enough pressure to hold the air there, if that makes sense. Because things want to be amongst themselves. It's just a natural physics and whatever. Like, water wants to be with water, oil wants to be with oil type thing. All right. So hear me out on this theory. I'm hitting right at 10 minutes, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up. What if, and as I'm saying pressure, that would mean pressure would create a molten core, which isn't proven, but like if we had a hot center Earth, that would make sense. You're pressing all this shit together, creating heat. Also makes it where it's so much harder as you're going down to get through. Pressure. Then it builds up. It's on the outer space. That's pressure, holding planets in place, holding the sun in place. And that's something else we need to understand with gravity. The way gravity is with the rule of relativity, we're not rotating the sun. We're going to spin into it eventually. Every single planet is going to eventually be consumed by the sun, is actually what's going on. If the rule of relativity is applicable to what it is and based off like Mercury ellipse, yeah, that's what it looks like. All right, so if everything we know, like outer space, and I understand we don't know the limit of space, but let's just pretend for the sake of it, it's all just in a box like this. Like we can view it like this for perspective. Then what if this box has a couple holes in it? Those would be black holes where things are leaking out. Because everything that we are and everything that we know is more of a fluid-like substance than whatever is on the outside of it. Like, for example, we could literally be like a little pit of bacteria 10,000 feet below what we think is a ground in a whole nother world. And it's just our perspective makes us think we're bigger than we are when we're actually microscopic. But yeah, anyways, gravity. That's kind of what I'm leaning to. I really kind of feel like it's opposite of what we've always been taught. If you have some thoughts, I'd love to debate this with people who can actually be intellectual and talk about stuff. I do a lot of reading on my own. It's so annoying when someone just says, oh, but they've proved this. And then they can't name who. They've never talked to that person. They've never met something, and they're referencing something they were told by a third grade fucking science teacher who probably shouldn't have gotten a degree and has now started using meth. Like, what are we talking about? Anyways, y'all have a good day. Happy New Year. Gravity might not be real. Might be pressure on top of us.